Hi. Today we're going to talk about government bureaucracy, specifically in the executive branch. What is a bureaucracy is the first question you have to understand. Bureaucracies are large, complex, and handle everyday business of any organization. So, for example, the school has a bureaucracy. The secretaries are part of that bureaucracy. They handle the everyday business of the organization. And the government is vastly bigger than Black Duck High School school district. So the government, the U.S. government, has a huge bureaucracy of people that manage the affairs, all the different affairs of the government. A bureaucrat, when you think of a bureaucrat, usually people think of someone who's surrounded by paper, paper pusher, although bureaucrats include people other than paper pushers. There are a lot of positions in the government bureaucracy. The structure of bureaucracies is hierarchical. Okay, a hierarchy is a pyramid-shaped situation. There are lots of organizations that are hierarchical. The Army has bureaucracy. The Army is very hierarchical. Okay, the executive branch, where most of the government workers in the country are, the executive branch, as you recall, is the president's branch, one of the three branches of government, along with legislative and judicial branches. The executive branch is where most of the people work for the government. Millions of people work in the executive branch, something like 3 million or 4 million. Most government work is done in this branch. The executive branch is broken into departments. There are many different departments of the executive branch, about 15 right now. The departments include the Department of State, the Department of Treasury, Defense, Injustice, Interior, Agriculture, Commerce, Labor, Health and Human Services, Housing, Urban Development, Transportation, Energy, Education, Veterans Affairs, Homeland Security. These are the main branches of the executive branch. The executive branch, the president's on top, and then you got all these departments on the bottom, and then they're broken up further into different groups. For example, if you think about the Department of Defense, that is broken into Army, Navy, Air Force, right? Different groups. So each one of these departments here is broken down further, and then that's broken down further, so it ends up being a pyramid shape. Okay, each department has a leader called a secretary, like the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Justice. There's one, the Department of Justice doesn't have a secretary. It's called the Attorney General. I misspoke there. The Attorney General is another name for the Secretary of Justice. So this one of them has a special name. The rest of them are just the Secretary leads that department. Here is a guy here. This is the current Secretary of the Treasury. He's named Jacob Lew, and you might know him because he's got this crazy signature. Check out his signature. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. It's nuts. The guy has this crazy signature. How are you ever supposed to know what he's signing? It looks like a bunch of loops. Okay, here all of the department heads, the secretaries, all gathered together make up the cabinet. And here is President Obama's cabinet right here. Here is Abraham Lincoln's cabinet, who he picked people who agreed with him and disagreed with him. He picked people that would be advise him in ways that he might not want. Okay, so they told him stuff he didn't want to hear, and that was important to him to have a cabinet that had a lot of different views. Another power of the president is to appoint or to name someone to office. So they're not elected; they're just appointed. The president says, "You're it." Okay, and they appoint people. The president appoints Supreme Court justices, all the secretaries, and hundreds of other important executive branch posts. In order to appoint technically, though, the Senate has to confirm the appointment. So the president can't just say someone's appointed. The Senate has to then say, okay, we agree, that's a good appointment. Okay, now that can be a problem because the Senate, when they're controlled by the opposite party, so if the president's a Republican and the Senate's Democratic, the Democratic Senate might not approve their appointments sometimes just to mess with the president. That's politics for you, though. Also, even if the Senate is controlled by the same party, so if the president's a Democrat and the Senate's a Democrat, the minority party, the Republicans in that case, they could filibuster the appointments, which we've talked about in previous lessons. And that is what they've done a lot in President Obama's term, a lot of filibustering of appointments. There are many other agencies in the government, not just the departments. Some of them work for the departments, some of them are just independent. Okay, here's some of them: the CIA, NASA, the OPM, the GSA. All these are different agencies that work for the government that aren't necessarily in the departments, but they still take care of a lot of important things. The OPM deals with the civil service, which you need to know what the civil service is. Here's the civil service. It's civilian employees. Civilian means non-military employees whose hiring and pay are regulated by Congress. So basically, these are just people that work for the government for a living. Okay, civil service, and there's lots of different jobs in civil service, right? Thousands, millions of jobs in the civil service. Stuff that you can really, if you go into the civil service, you're helping your fellow Americans. The spoils system. The spoils system is giving the best government jobs to those that are the most connected and loyal. So it's basically using your power to appoint to get stuff out of them. We've talked about corruption in many different ways in this class. Here's another way to be corrupt. You can sell your appointments. You can say, okay, if I'm going to appoint you, then you need to give me something. So you can really sell the appointments. It's a way to be corrupt in government. Ulysses S. Grant, one of the presidents of the United States in the Civil War, he used this a lot. He was very corrupt. And he sold the seats to the for his appointments, and it was very effective for him, I guess, but not necessarily for the country. And that's all there is for this.